Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Festival Fridays. We are here again. Just wanted to say hello and welcome you into Festival Fridays. We've had some fantastic sessions over the last 4 weeks, and today we've got yet another one, all based around the topics that you as an audience decided you needed more learnings and more insights upon. So today we are going to touch on performance marketing. And I will leave it there for one moment while we get some more of you into the room. Thank you for those that have made it in on time, which is wonderful. I will be back in about 30 seconds. Right, we're almost there, Christina. Few more people coming into the event, which is quite exciting.
Great. It's a nice Friday, noontime, thing to be able to listen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We'll give people a couple more minutes, get a few more in there. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Festival Fridays. Wonderful to see you here. We're just waiting for a few of the slackers who forgot what time this started, but they are coming in, which is wonderful, which is all good. We will be going live in a moment with another one of our insightful masterclasses. I hope you're all ready for some great learnings, take away some great insights, and take away some great trends around performance marketing. And I think crucially, we've got an amazing story to be told about how you pivot your marketing and media strategies during a pandemic, such as the one we are currently in around the globe. Some really interesting insights. So, okay, without further ado, welcome to Festival Fridays, everybody. Yeah, we are here today on our 4th Festival Fridays. We've had some wonderful content so far from our various speakers and our various sessions. And the beauty of it is, even after this session, we've been distributing the videos of the session and people have been commenting on the great learnings and insights they found. So not wanting to disappoint you guys any further or not wanting to give you more, we decided that this week we would go down the route of performance marketing, which is one of the key topics that you, the global brand audience, said to us you needed more insight and more information on. So to take us down that route, we have got a fantastic speaker lined up. She is in Barcelona. You'll be pleased to know she is staying safe. But it is Christina Cowell, who is the co-founder and CEO, managing partner of Camelia Beauty. Christina, welcome to Festival Fridays.
Hi, thank you, Jeremy. Nice to be here.
Yeah, it's very strange doing these sessions in the digital world. Still now, 4 weeks down, I'm still kind of getting to grips with it. But
definitely. But you're doing well, so I'm excited.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I've worked out how to do a virtual background properly without a green screen, which seems to be quite exciting. So I think one of the best places to start, and we've heard so many amazing tales from various businesses and how they've coped and what they've done and how they've done it over the last kind of 5 to 6 months. Be a really interesting place to start where you've come from. I know that as a brand, and the thing is, as a brand that's able to be agile and swift, you've kind of had to pivot your marketing and media strategy. So I thought I'd ask you kind of what have been the biggest challenges you've faced so far, the key successes and why you think they're successes, and kind of things that you've done that you think perhaps would do that slightly different going forward. I know that's quite a few questions to ask you in one go, but it'd be wonderful to get that insight from you.
Yeah, well, I can give you a little bit of background just about the business and the brand to paint the picture. We're an indie beauty brand. We make consumer nail products. We retail with big retailers like Sephora, Ulta, ASOS. We have 2 e-commerce sites that we run out, a .com and a .eu. And we've had the brand live for about 5.5 years. We've been on the market. And prior to COVID, so I would say prior to March, we ran we had our e-commerce, but our retail business and our distribution business was the majority of what we were doing. Our team was focused on it, the energy was focused on it, the resources were put on it. Our e-commerce was there chugging along, but we handled e-commerce in a very, we're a startup, in a very startup manner. And I would say with COVID, we just saw this massive sales spike, probably from mid-March to mid-April. We had this huge sales spike, like many e-commerce, like consumer products. And we were very lucky because at that time, we're an at-home nail product. So in terms of the category of, at-home care, nail care, beauty entertainment, we were really in a sweet spot in that time period. So when we saw the big lift, during COVID, it actually kind of coincided with a lot of our retailers closing shop. Sephora, that we work very closely with in France, closed all of their doors. Our retail sales went down, and those purchase orders that we've been getting went down. We had a lot of inventory during this period, but then our e-commerce just shot up. It was so unexpected. And we had days that we were doing like 25 times sales versus pre-COVID. So we just pivoted everything. We were like, let's, for the rest of the year, focus on e-commerce. Let's build up the team. Let's, put budget and resources against it and load up the inventory to support it and really just, really focus on that till the end of the year.
And what have you found as the kind of biggest challenges to kind of getting that team in place to kind of moving e-commerce to a different space? Because obviously every business in that sense is looking at how do you utilize those digital channels and those eyeballs and those interactions when people are locked down at home.
It's such a key topic. I mean, I think for me, like when I talk to people who are doing performance marketing, I love to share information about it. I think, for us, it's been a learning. As an independent, like as a startup, as a private business, I don't come from a performance marketing background. I come from traditional brand marketing. I was telling you before, I worked at ad agencies in New York back in like the early to mid 2000s. And the world is very different now. How we do marketing is very different now. And I think, for us, like the challenges, I would say, me personally not coming from this background, you really need the people around you to guide you. And you have to trust that you have, probably the key 2 to 4 people that you surround yourselves with to really guide you on the strategy and advise you on how to spend that money. You need to, be aligned in terms of where you're going and really have those people around you. And then on top of that, we do use an agency as well, that, for all of our paid social. So that's really helpful. But yeah, the challenge I think is, like with many businesses, it does start with team and structure, being able to like have the right people around you, evaluating if it's working, setting in place metrics, reporting, analytics to see, doing more of what's working. But yeah, the challenge has been more around, I would say, building up the right team.
Okay, and that's interesting in itself. Two things I wanted to pick up on there was, firstly, I suppose one of the key things in order to ensure, even with an e-commerce strategy, is that you have the supply chain in place, number one. And number two, actually finding the right talent and having the right people on board. Is that a case of, developing people who are in different roles within the business, or is that bringing in new people? How has that kind of worked over the last few months?
So I think in terms of supply chain, so supply chain first, that's really key because you can't have daily revenue targets if you just have no inventory. We actually, the first month of the lockdown, we sold just everything was selling. I mean, we sold out of a lot of stuff. Even low sellers were selling. It was a very interesting period. And we could see, we weren't sure. At the beginning, we just thought, okay, wow, like we're in a really good space. And then there was just a round of articles in beauty magazines and beauty, kind of websites that we like, influential ones, that talked about, at home nail care and really our category. So it was great because we were able to kind of capitalize and tap into this demand that was in the market. And it was just this natural, the inventory went out of stock. We do a lot of production and manufacturing in China. So the lead time became very long. What was also very interesting during this period was that China was producing a lot of, face masks, medical equipment. So the shipping times just became even longer because a lot of people don't know this, but the shipments out of China the priority were these medical supplies. Those were getting the priority in terms of the outbound shipments. So our lead times became very long. We did go through probably 6 weeks of being very low on inventory, having to balance how do you maintain a media spend, and where the momentum was going up, you're out of inventory. What are you doing during this period? But then, fortunately, by early June, we restocked, and then we had hired more of a team in place. And then I think for the rest of the year, the forecast in terms of supply chain and inventory is, we are just ordering significantly more stock across all of our SKUs to really support us into the holiday season, which is, for us, it's a #1 sales season. So we just wanted to make sure, we'd rather be overstocked than to run out of stock. And that was the decision between me and my business partner for the rest of 2020. The lost sales opportunities are more painful than, the inventory burden on cash flow, let's say. But I think, I think in terms of inventory levels, if you have the ability to really stock up, we probably have increased our stock levels 15 to 20 times what we were ordering pre-COVID, just to really support that. And then, I'm sorry, what was your second question?
No, I will come back to that because you've sparked off a couple more questions for me from the supply chain side. So I suppose a question that a lot of people in the industry would like to know is, from a business perspective, it's interesting that you've managed to stock up and put more in place. Would that mean that if we approached the second lockdown or it had a second wave, have you now developed a way around that as a supply chain? Because I think one of the biggest issues with everything was actually everything ground to a halt because we couldn't quite work out how to make those supply chains work in a time of lockdown and crisis.
Yeah, we actually planned for a second wave. I think we sort of planned that the summer might be the period where things got a bit more lax and the fall would be a second wave. And it just coincides because for us, our two biggest sales seasons are always Christmas, holiday season, Black Friday, holiday, and then summer season is #2. So we definitely wanted to make sure, with or without a second wave, we're going into our #1 sales season. So it made sense for us to really ensure that we're going to support that with a lot of stock. And, a lot of businesses, you have your best sellers, you have your low sellers. You obviously want to be stocking up on the things that sell the most and the best. And those things will continue to sell later. So you don't have to worry too much about, stuff not moving if it doesn't move during this period of time.
Excellent. And look, my other part of that question was actually fantastic that you've managed to kind of pre-prepare for a second wave, which is obviously the key and the way to do it. In terms of the things that we briefly chatted around, some of the challenges you've faced, and it was putting in place the new team and bringing in that new structure to deal with e-commerce. What have you discovered from that in terms of, would you do anything differently to the way you've done something now during this period in terms of bringing people over? Have you kind of actively gone out there and been one of kind of a few businesses who's able to go, actually, we are taking on new people because we're in a solid position?
Yeah, I think, we're very fortunate and we're very grateful that, we did have, while the retail sales went down, the e-commerce sales went up. And it's been very, very good for the brand that happened because it allowed us to really support social media more, which is just more of an investment back into the brand. I would say, so pre-COVID, the way we worked on e-commerce was very startup style. It was maybe 2 or 3 people in-house, on our team who were dedicated to it. And our primary focus was conversion and revenue. I mean, that's really, I would say for the last 3 years, like that's how we evaluated things. We wanted revenue, we wanted conversions. We were looking at top line. We weren't even looking at bottom line so much. We were looking at top line, you know, sales. And then since COVID, I mean, some of the things we've done, you know, were that we really wanted to professionalize how we were doing our digital marketing and our e-commerce sales. We hired a marketing director to really lead the marketing team and really take the e-commerce under her. And we have added externally, in addition to the people that we have, some experts on paid social who can handle like analytics and reporting. We weren't doing, you know, our you know, Google Analytics, all the reporting, we weren't doing it that professionally, you know, pre-COVID. We also did a full audit of our websites, of our 2 websites, to really try to optimize, you know, the sales funnel and the web experience. And that's just something that we kicked off like in the middle of COVID, and we've just been sort of working on it since then. What else have we done? We doubled our media spend. When things were really taking off, we just doubled the spend across all the markets. We added markets. So we have a warehouse in New York. We have a warehouse in Barcelona. The warehouse in Barcelona supports the European markets. And we were like, let's just add markets. I mean, it's pretty interesting. Like we weren't really doing paid social in Germany or Holland. Let's just add them. And the return on ad spend was just skyrocketing. Like we were seeing, you know, 30-time return on spend during the peak moments of COVID. Since then, we're trying to maintain about a 20-time ROAS, you know, and it's gone down a lot, but we were like, let's add markets. I mean, these markets are going in and out of lockdown. So we added Portugal, like on the European side. And then, yeah, I mean, we were kind of monitoring, like, you know, for example, like Italy is one of our top markets in Europe for e-commerce. When Italy moved out of lockdown, our sales did go down a lot because, and we were like, right before, when we were monitoring the news, right before they were going out of lockdown, we're like, let's like do stuff to just push it, you know, push it this last week before we know that people are going to have other entertainment beyond, you know, things that we can offer them. So those were some of the changes that we made. I would say also, what else did we do? We really wanted to, we talked about influencer marketing when you and I chatted. We definitely wanted to really step up how we were doing influencer marketing, putting more budget against paid influencers, larger paid influencers, and especially exploring, you know, things like TikTok, you know, where you probably would just have more return, you know, on investment at this stage as a brand. So just things that we could also drive brand awareness with, we were sort of focused on. I would say in terms of the team, you know, we have the team that, you know, has been with us in terms of like paid social and performance marketing. We did, you know, look outside to add more expertise because we didn't have enough ourselves. We wanted to bring in people who had specifically more experience with reporting, with analytics, and also just proven experience like growing e-com businesses. We have, you know, a lady working with us now who managed her own e-com business before and, you know, had like tripled her own revenue, you know, when she was doing her business. So it's been very interesting to kind of bring in like just more specialized expertise that we didn't have ourselves. And it's been a fascinating learning. I think anyone who's doing performance marketing, you can just be really obsessed with it. It's very, it's very interesting to see how your money's spent and those results.
And that leads us beautifully into that segue around performance marketing and why it's now important. I mean, every brand we've seen over the last 2-3 years, it's all about kind of delivering ROI, it's delivering that effectiveness. What do you, and there's so many great things you touched on there, which we'll come back to as well as we go through this conversation. But from a performance marketing start, I think you speak to a lot of the big brands around the world, and times they're a little bit scared of jumping in and doing things and understanding how it all works. Like as a small kind of fiery brand that has a bit more ability to be more agile, to be able to move, you know, what do you see from your perspective as performance marketing?
So I think, you know, from our side, it's, you know, we're very close to the actions that we take, you know, and I personally am very involved. You know, I had mentioned to you before, like, I don't come from this background. I'm coming from more like brand marketing agency side. And I think like the changes that have happened, you know, in the media space, and the social media, the technology space, probably, yeah, the past 5 to 7 years, 3 to 7 years. I mean, it's been so tremendous that if you don't do it yourself, it's really hard to learn it if you're not really hands-on, right? And I think for us, like, we've been focused on retail business for a long time. So we would look for either distributors or retail partners like Sephora, ASOS, and these kinds of larger retailers. Probably about 3 years ago, our website, we split the website into 2 websites. So we had a .com, everything was being shipped globally out of the US. You know, for logistics reasons, we split the websites and the warehouses. So we started having a warehouse in Spain to service Europe. And at that time, we, you know, were really digging into the, like, I would say Facebook ads. I wasn't even calling it performance marketing 3 years ago. I was just thinking of it as Facebook ads because that's the only thing we were looking at. I had this freelancer who helped me. She was based out of New York. I was in Spain. And I was working with her really closely for about a month, and she just ran all of our Facebook ads, like going into Black Friday and just the holiday season. And she implemented all that. She set up the campaign, she monitored the results. We had weekly calls. I fed her all the creative. You know, at that time, the team was much smaller. I was managing all the sort of creative, the marketing, like the communications and the messaging of what we wanted to say in these ads. So, and then she would just implement everything and we would look at results. And through that, I just really got a front row seat to kind of basics of how it worked and getting excited when you see, you know, results coming in. Then, to be honest, for about a year and a half, we just took it in-house, and we had like interns. I had interns running Facebook ads for us for about a year and a half, and it worked beautifully. I mean, this is a while ago. I don't think it would work the same way now, but we were very lucky. Like, it performed. I mean, we probably, for one of the markets, we ran like only one creative for a year. I think we milked that creative until the market, like, they didn't want to look at it anymore. And then we realized, oh, we should do segmentation. Oh, we should maybe have some different creative. We should change it up a bit. But it was very basic the way we were doing it. And we were really close to it. We were monitoring the results. We were seeing how the audiences were interacting and converting and repeat customers. And we were really looking at it very closely. So I would say that, you know, from my experience, it's a bit easier now to have people who are specialized working on my team, and to have, like, me to have these conversations with them because I worked on it myself. You know, I don't have, you know, like, with regards, you know, I know Facebook ads, but with regards to like Google ads, search, shopping, SEO, I mean, I don't really know about all of these things, but there's one piece of it that I did work on very closely. And I think through that, you're able to, you know, be able to monitor it and be able to understand it a bit better.
And that's a really interesting point. Performance marketing in the social media channels obviously comes with its own challenges, from the walled gardens to having your own first-party data, not having your first-party data. How, you know, what's the kind of biggest challenge you're finding in the performance marketing piece from a social media, and how do you really glean success? It sounds like, you know, you kind of started from that bottom rung very organically, then moved up. Now got a greater grip on how it works and what happens.
Yeah, I would say, you know, first couple of years, we were very sales focused. We wanted revenues and we wanted conversions. The brand has been on the market since early 2015. So, you know, it's been like 5.5 years. I think, you know, obviously it needs to evolve. Us as a startup, you know, it's hard for us to spend media dollars on things like brand awareness because you don't see those results directly. I would say that's probably a current challenge that we're facing is, you know, we've always looked at it one way. You know, we want high ROAS, we want to see top line revenue. When things aren't converting right away, when campaigns aren't performing right away, we get nervous. it's just, you know, if you're not coming from this background and if you're a business person and, you know, you're thinking about other things, that's kind of what you want to see. You don't really want to dig into the why. You know, like my business partner, he's like, I don't really care why are we not making money, you know, across certain campaigns. And I think, you know, that is something that we're trying to understand. And we have an agency that we're working with now who's doing, I would say, like a two-pronged approach. You know, first, really just running ads that are, I think, cheaper, maybe cost per click, and just trying to like get a lot more traffic to our website, and then going a bit deeper to remarket to them, and, you know, seeing the return more on the secondary campaign. So, you know, I think that's the challenge, you know, at the stage and the kind of where we are in the stage of the life of this brand, is that, you know, we need, our dollars aren't going to be, the conversion is not so visible the way it used to be. And the spaces are evolving, you know, like Instagram ads are just more expensive. You know, how do you stay on top of that? And I think, you know, you'd asked me about like either having people in-house working with us or working with agencies. And, you know, we have both. And I think the beauty of having an agency is that they're very, very specialized. And, you know, some agencies have ins with Facebook and Instagram, and they, you know, they Google, and they're talking to, you know, their account people regularly over there, and they're updated on the latest that's happening. Us as a startup, we don't have access to that. So I think when we work with agencies, that's a real benefit of being able to tap into that, as well as just, you know, like the brain power that comes on an agency team that works part-time on your business versus hiring full-time. Like we wouldn't have the capability to hire full-time for this kind of brain power, but we're able to tap into it if we have an agency. So I think the mix of having, you know, an external agency who's really technically specialized, strategically, you know, focused on the KPIs that you've given them, combined with, you know, having a few people in-house who are very close to your brand, who understand the brand DNA, who are, you know, on our team, obviously, that we trust, and just the proximity to the brand and the day-to-day and the product development and what we're doing, what is the messaging and what are the key issues. I think the mix of having the in-house, you know, team and then the external agency has been the right mix for us.
Absolutely, and it sounds like, you know, that certainly is the way to go forward. What do you see from businesses when you hear other businesses or brands talking around performance marketing? What do you think are the biggest mistakes that businesses are making in that space at the moment, or the biggest myths, I suppose? How would you bust the biggest myths around performance marketing? I know, you know, obviously there's a lot of concern, particularly in the digital space, around brand safety, but what do you see in businesses and you think, oh my gosh, they shouldn't have done that, or that's why that's not particularly working? What are those kind of areas that you've seen where you think, crikey, they shouldn't be doing that?
I don't know. I guess like, I think for us, like, I mean, the way we look at it, it really comes down to, first, it comes down to spend, you know, and you're afraid to like really spend your money on the wrong things. So sometimes, you know, it's a trial and error in the beginning. Like us as a startup, everything we try in the beginning, like we obviously haven't done it before. So, you know, and now these days you have so many potential vendor partners out in the world. You have lots of different kinds of agencies. You have tech companies, you know, ad tech. You just have all these platforms, and, you know, we get pitched all the time on LinkedIn, in our inbox, from these agencies that are, you know, running like, I don't know, influencer marketing agencies or influencer analytics, or, you know, all these things. We can't even really make sense of it, and we don't really know how to like to pick, and, you know, do we even need these types of partners at this stage? So I would say there's a ton of choice in how you spend your marketing dollars. There's an overwhelming amount of choice. You have a lot of social media platforms across paid, you know, there's just a ton of choice in terms of, you know, Google, Facebook, all these things. YouTube was something that we really wanted to dive more into. So, you know, what is the right mix? What I've seen is, what's worked for us is that it's trial and error, you know, like we try things on a smaller scale. We want to see that it's working. and then we'll just do more of it. And then if we try something else that it's not working, then we kind of, stop that. I guess the danger of that is that you could just go down a path of continuing to do the same thing because you feel that, like we went through a period where we were like, YouTube influencers, I was like very into YouTube. I'm like, we do nail products. We had these influencers who are nail influencers. So their audience went to them to see application, usage of nail products, commentary of recommendations. And it was a very, it was a great dedicated audience who wanted to buy, like they were looking for reviews and then they would go and purchase. It was a much better audience for us than general beauty influencers or lifestyle influencers who, maybe were promoting a lot of other makeup products or skincare products. And we didn't have like that focused audience. So we were talking to a lot of YouTube nail influencers. And then we would pay for, these videos, like they would do videos for us. And then we would give them discount codes so we could track if people come to our website and shop and get 10% off. And it was just, it was a wonderful activity because we could obviously track, the results. We saw a lot of conversions. We had one, she's a younger girl who was, she had very devoted fans. And, the amount of money that we paid her to do probably 4 videos for us, just really showcasing the product, like painting, describing, unboxing, talking about the product for about 4 or 5 minutes. We had like 95 times return on investment. It was crazy. And after we saw that, I was like, I want more of these videos. I want more. So then we went for a larger YouTuber, and then we paid more for a larger audience. And then we wanted to amplify it. So we said, we don't just want the video to go live. Let's add a giveaway. Let's add, XYZ, so that the whole campaign can just have a bit of, a bit more of an amplification. So it's just been a bit of a trial and error for us to see. And, I think for YouTube, what I liked about it was that it's like the gift that keeps on giving. Like, it goes up, and if it's up for 3 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, like people go to YouTube and they're searching your brand, and then they're coming across these videos that really go into detail about the product, and then they see there's a discount code and they come and purchase. So I like it a lot versus like, Instagram is kind of like table stakes. Like you just, Instagram, YouTube is not as sexy and cool as Instagram from a brand perspective, but I would say there's a lot more return on YouTube, but Instagram is like, you have to be on there as a brand. You can't not spend money on that platform. But it's, it's a 24-hour kind of thing. Like you pay for stories or you pay for Instagram posts, it goes up, it's lost in the feed, or it's in the story, it goes up, it's gone again. But it's kind of like a necessary evil, if I can say that. But, I have to say, like, I do like YouTube a lot. I don't think we've really like done more than that, but we, looked at, could we run more ads on YouTube? Like it's a very interesting space, I think, for beauty and for nail.
Yeah, I was really interested. You obviously mentioned YouTube, you mentioned Instagram with the influencers, but how are you using TikTok? Or is TikTok a good new space to play in when it comes to using influencers?
So we're super excited about TikTok. If you follow our Instagram page, I actually did a TikTok training. So I did my own my first TikTok video last weekend. And I basically did it because Instagram, Reels had launched, and I was like, well, let me make an Instagram Reel myself and let me make a TikTok video. Obviously, the functionalities are all the same. And, we saw what they did with Snapchat. So, let's see what happens with TikTok, on Instagram. But after I made the videos myself, I realized just how easy it is. These platforms make it so easy to just pump out content. And so earlier this week, we did a little training with our team, and I wanted every single person here to make their own TikTok video. So it was quite cute. Like the girls broke out into groups. They make TikTok videos. It's on our Instagram page now if you want to have a look at it. And you could actually see the variety in terms of creativity. So we're trying to do 2 things. Like we really need to pump out more content ourselves on TikTok. It's a good moment before it gets more expensive. And you just have more visibility. So I think as a brand, we need to be putting out more content, which we really haven't dived into. But my marketing director is really like pushing this. And then in terms of like influencer side and paid side, I think you've got very, very large influencers who have amassed a huge following in a very, very short time. A lot of it, probably due to COVID as well. And the prices are good before they are going to be higher. So it's definitely something that I think a lot of brands are looking at, or should be looking at. You just have these you have like these young girls who have millions of followers, and the prices are very good. Obviously, the content they're producing is a 15-second snippet, and it's very, very easy, versus having to do something, content that's very prepared or very edited. I think TikTok, they can kind of just like bang it out. But it's interesting. I mean, we're test driving a little bit, so we're going to see how it goes. I can update you later. But I'm excited that it's I think it's a cheap platform for the moment.
Okay.
So I would actually, sorry to interrupt, I would actually recommend brands test. Just put some budget against TikTok and test some of the influencers, test some content. And because I think it's so affordable, especially for larger brands, it's so affordable. Like, why would you not test it? There's really no, I would say there's almost no wastage if you just do, do a few things.
Which is brilliant. And what I like, there's a couple of things you pointed out there. One is about the influencers. And I suppose one of the big problems you've got is getting to those influencers beforehand, because you may have an influencer that you use, creates great return on investment for you guys, and then suddenly they become bigger by the fact that they've seen what they've done with you. They get other brands coming to them as well, and suddenly they get bigger and bigger. How do you maintain because obviously you have that business relationship, but with influencers, it's the authenticity that you want to try and retain. What's your key to ensuring A, you've got the right influencers, and B, kind of making sure that it works much more like a partnership as opposed to a kind of business relation?
Absolutely. First, I would really recommend, there is an indie brand that I follow very, very closely. It's called INH. It's called Insert Name Here, Hair, INH Hair. And they're an indie brand out of LA. They make wigs. It's two girls they're 28. They actually helped build ColourPop, which is another LA makeup brand, e-commerce. It used to be e-commerce only. They built up ColourPop social. They created a lot of content with them. I mean, they started as interns, worked there for 5 years, and then launched their own brand at 28, And I love how they approach everything. I love how they approach social media, email marketing, their team culture, because you see their team culture through their Instagram stories, what they're doing with TikTok, and how they are really handling, they are influencers themselves. They're each under 100,000, but they became influencers through their previous job. I really recommend brands follow INH. I talk about them a lot with my team. I think what they do is very, very organic, because they're very close to their business, obviously, and they're just doing e-com, and it's just very focused how they're working. So they're not distracted by all the noise, right? And I think they're working on things right in front of them. One thing that I think they do very, very well is that this is natural for them, but they're friends with influencers, and they have relationships with influencers beyond business relationships. That's obviously authentic to who they are, because of where they live and their personalities and sort of like what they did before. I think from our side, we haven't approached it that way in the past. Like like many brands, you look for influencers that you feel could be a good fit. You contact them, try to get some prices, do a post, do a project, one and done kind of thing, see how it works. If it works, try to do it again. I think that's how a lot of brands approach it. And, obviously influencers are people. And I think, what is their upside and what are they looking for? I think, I had a call the other day with an influencer who is about to hit 100,000. She's a nail influencer out of LA. And we had a really interesting call where we talked about, what she's looking for. So she's looking for, she's followed by a lot of beauty magazines and, like the Pop Sugars and Refinery 29s, like in the US. She's followed by a lot of them. She's looking for to be influential, to be seen as someone who knows the latest trends, is going to be interviewed on the latest trends, and you know, what's you know, like producing inspirational nail art and looks. And I think like for someone like her, brand partners who can help lift her up, you know, and help her reach her objectives are very interesting. You know, brand partners who work more on a long-term basis are more interesting. You know, she explained to me, like, if you work on a one-off basis, like she has brands who they work on one-off projects, and then the brand kind of is like, can you just post something extra? Can you just post like another story or another something? And she's like, I don't do that because, you know, you're paying for this. And then to ask me for more, you know, it's not very cool. But then if I'm working long-term, like she has a very large nail brand that she works long-term with, you know, several months kind of package. And she's like, these guys, you know, we have deliverables, you know, every month I'm delivering X amount of content, photos, videos, tutorials. But anyway, I'm shooting all day long. I'm just shooting content all day long, and I'm shooting extra content. So for those guys, I'll give them more, you know, like they give me a long-term package. I give them more. I give them double the content that might be in our agreement. And so it kind of, I mean, it reinforced something that, you know, we know already, but the relationships, you know, are very important. And, you know, nowadays you have these brands, like you have more and more brands that are starting up, just every type of consumer product you can imagine on D2C. And the founders are getting younger and younger, you know, and they're making friends with influencers. So, I mean, if I can't make friends with influencers myself, I need to have people on my team who are friends with influencers, or I need to be hiring influencers on my team. That's how we're going to amplify the work that we do. I think it's just, it's too difficult now just to do it the way we've been doing it. You know, I think like this is just the trajectory, and it's the only way we can really move forward.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it's really, really interesting stuff in there. You know, you've talked about social, we've talked about influencers and how they're an important element of performance marketing. And I also enjoyed the piece where you're talking about actually there's the opportunity to trial and error, to actually use different platforms to understand and get passionate about what you're doing. And actually, we've had a question from the audience around that. And someone has asked, what advice would you give someone starting out in performance marketing?
I would say that if you're able to have the time, I don't know what your business is and how much you're involved in product development or, you know, what's going on, but if you have the time to do some of it yourself in the beginning, I really recommend doing that. I think being very close to it is the best way to learn it. Of course, you can farm it out. You can always. Everybody is like Google certified, Facebook certified. I mean, you look on LinkedIn, everybody has certifications nowadays. There's a lot of talent out there. But how are you as a business owner able to assess if that talent can really, like, do you trust them with your media spend? Like, do you trust them with your ad dollars? You know, the only way to really know and to evaluate their work is to do it yourself. I mean, that's the way, you know, like I had experienced it. There are a lot of options. I mean, there's a lot of platforms. There's a lot of ways you can spend your money. The media mix, it's just every day there's just more and more possibilities of how you can spend it. It's very hard to know. I think you don't have to do all of it. I think that was our problem when we first started. We're like, let's have a Facebook account. Let's have an Instagram account. Let's have a YouTube account. Let's have a Twitter account. Let's have a Pinterest account. That's just having the accounts. Like, I'm not even talking about spend on those platforms. And we created all those accounts, and it was such a nightmare to try to keep up with it because the content you need obviously needs to be tailored for it. And then you look at spend, like paid, and you're like, wow, I really, you know, I would actually really love us to spend on Pinterest. Pinterest is something I'm like, we should have always done it. We always try to redo it, and we never actually really do it right. Somewhere I'd love to be spending money, but, you know, we just don't have the capability for that. I mean, you really need to, it's a whole universe to digest and understand and know if you're managing it the right way. I mean, I think you need to pick, what are your top platforms? Like, what are the top 2 that you care about? you know, because whatever content you're creating for that really has to be customized. Like you really can't be repurposing Instagram content for Facebook. We try, it doesn't look good, so you really can't be doing that. But yeah, pick your top platforms. And then I think, you know, if you are producing content on those platforms, I think it makes sense to just invest into those and put your paid there. But the best is really just to do it yourself. Like start with small budgets, you know, think about your messaging. What are your demographics? Who are you talking to? I mean, really kind of going back to like basics of marketing 101, you know? But I think learning a few of the tools yourself so that you understand technically how it works, the principles of it, before you know, outsource it. Like that's I found to be, you know, better for us.
No, great. A great advice there and great insight, which is, I think, what you guys out there in the audience are looking for. And you mentioned in there, you know, actually the budgets you spend. How much, obviously you don't have to tell us everything, but how important, I suppose, is performance marketing in that kind of media marketing mix in terms of budget slice? Should you be looking to invest more heavily in that? Does it depend on the type of business you are? From what you can see from performance marketing, you're finding obviously some of the results that you've had have been absolutely fabulous. So, you know, as performance marketing as a tool in that media and marketing mix, you know, how important is that?
I think I actually was looking at this to try to understand. I mean, we spend in the first half of the year over 60% of our total spend of our total marketing budget was on Facebook and Instagram. I mean, it's just insane. I don't know if that's how we should be doing it. If it's, you know, and that doesn't even count for agency fees. That's just straight going into Facebook's pocket. I don't know if that's the right breakdown for us. I think, you know, in the first half of the year, we were really focused on these paid social ads. We hadn't done influencer marketing yet. So there wasn't like a, you know, I think at the end of the year, we're going to rebalance a bit because we're really going to be doing a lot more with Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube influencers. We are also really stepping up our own content production. So, you know, I think that's important as a foundation. Like it's not necessarily against the performance marketing, but having your own very good content and really being able to put it out there, have a personality for the brand, have something that you can engage and talk to with your community is really key. So, you know, if you put a lot of money against like paid social or influencers or whatever, and then when the audience and the traffic comes, but your own content is weak, I think it's not a very good experience. So it's as important to be really not just pumping out content, but like authentically doing content that you think is interesting, is useful, is educational, is great, is inspirational for your community, so that when you're driving that traffic over, they have something cool to look at, is really key. So as much as we're, you know, spending energy and resources against the external things that we're doing, we're also, you know, trying to really step up how we're doing our own, you know, our own content, our own pages, and the look and feel of the brand. I mean, one thing I had said with my team for this year, for the rest of the year, is that, you know, it's very important to, like, community. I mean, this is a hot topic, of course, but it's not just about top line revenues. It's obviously, like, in this day and age, like, you can't thrive without a community, a very devoted, loyal, large community who will be your brand ambassadors and your champions and your repeat customers. And I think, like, nowadays, you know, when we launched with Sephora in France back in the end of 2015, so you didn't, I mean, it was a different playing field, it was a different landscape at that time. You know, we went into so they had 120 doors in that country, in France. And we went into all those doors and we sold really well. And then we got listed, you know, a few months later in 340 shops. And in France, our brand awareness just really took off. I mean, the team was very good. There's a local team in France that manages the social. So they were very good at managing the social back in 2015. But at the same time, we had this very large retailer, very premium positioning. I mean, for an independent beauty brand, Sephora is about as good as it can get, you know, in terms of like placement, visibility, retail distribution, sales volumes. And, you know, back in the day, you could get into a retailer with no brand awareness and kind of like ride their coattails to success. You know, like they would give you, with all that shelf space in all those cities, that brand visibility. That's just not the case nowadays. Like when I look at, like we're with Ulta in the US, you know, when I look at Ulta, you know, or you talk to any buyer, like where are you looking for new brands? Everybody says, especially these young buyers, like category managers, they say, I'm hunting Instagram, just hunting Instagram all day long to look for independent beauty brands, brands with really cool Instagram accounts, large followings, cool websites, cool products. And, you know, the days have changed that the retailers are gonna be your, you know, the momentum to visibility and success. It's up to you as a brand to build your community, to, you know, like really build a loyal audience, that a community that talks to each other, who are going to buy your products. And when you talk to a retailer nowadays, I mean, if you look at Ulta, like they took in Kylie Jenner's like brand, they took in ColourPop, which was a D2C, you know, makeup brand that has probably 10 million followers on Instagram. They want to bring in brands that have large communities, because that means they're buying in not just the product, but they're buying built-in sales, they're buying built-in fans. And, you know, retailers need, you know, pre-COVID retailers needed foot traffic into the stores. I mean, of course they need that now more than ever if these stores start to reopen. And who's going to bring them that? It's those, you know, it's those very influential brands, because they have massive communities and they will help drive the sales of their own products into the retailers. So it's just a really different playing field. I mean, I don't think you can have a brand now if you don't have a community or audience. And so that's a big, you know, KPI for us this year, is really to focus on community building. And it's not an easy task. I mean, it comes with all the components, like the content creation, you know, the engagement with the community, all the influencer relationships, the partnerships that you need out there, and really being very close to your customers. So, but for us, that's a key. And I think that's, for me, like the past couple of years, it's really been a learning, because, you know, we were always very retail focused. Like just, it might seem that we're very e-com driven, but you know, the first 3 years we were very, very retail focused. And, you know, those retailers have been wonderful because they brought the volumes that you need. You know, obviously doing manufactured products, you need very high volumes when you're running production. You don't want to run, you know, 100 pieces or 1,000 pieces. Like, you need to be running 10,000 pieces of an item. So those retailers have been fantastic to help us really grow the business. But the e-com side is what you invest into, you know, for yourselves as your brand, and that community.
Lovely. And no, great, and really insightful stuff. And we've got, keep them coming, guys. We've got another question from the audience. I know we're getting to the end of our time, but I do want to make sure that you guys have a say as well. So one of the questions we've got, Christina, is how do you avoid buying into the hype and instead find authenticity, which millennials increasingly crave? Good question. Good question.
Yeah. I think that's a really interesting challenge that we face. I think the people who are on the front lines of your connections and your communications with your audience, your customers, the people on the front line. So I mean, the people managing your customer service, the people who are managing your social media, the people who are appearing on your social media, you know, like your team, if they're appearing on your social media to talk about things. If you do events, like back pre-COVID when we used to do events in stores, the people who are interfacing, like your team members who are on the front lines with your customers, they need to understand it themselves. They need to be millennials themselves. So obviously you need to hire millennials because they are the audience, they are the consumer. But like, I think you really have to be in the mindset. I would say, like, for me, when I go on our social media, like on the weekends, I pop into the inbox on our Limiting Macron Instagram account, and I'm reading those questions and I'm answering some of those questions, whatever they're asking. And you just have to give them the love. You just have to constantly, you know, I think, what are we as a brand looking for? We're looking for love from the consumer. Like, we need emotional love and connection from the consumer. That's the thing that makes them very attached to the brand and will keep them coming back. They will shout about your, you know, brand, your products to all of their friends, and they will repeat purchase from you, and they will come back to you. If you're wanting that emotional love and connection from them, well, you better be giving it back out to them authentically. Not everybody understands this. So I think But I think millennials, like, they're shopping this way. So I think, like, I've had people, I mean, not everyone does this. Other people obviously have different skills, but I think the ones who understand this and who are shopping this way, they're able to give it back out to the consumer. So I think it's really important, like, as a brand owner, if you have the ability to really interface with your customers and hear firsthand, what are the things they care about? What are the things they're asking? And it really has to be a two-way dialogue. And then, you know, having those people on your team who are on the front lines who intuitively understand it because they're doing it themselves, they're expecting it themselves, and they're able to give it back out there.
Good. No, excellent. I like that. And we have another question that people are loving the influencer conversation here. Who is your, I know you mentioned someone earlier in LA, which was very interesting, but who's your favorite influencer at the moment?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's very political. I would say, well, I won't tell you my favorite, but I'll tell you that we've been, you know, I've just been addicted to TikTok. I mean, you can't imagine the hours I'm spending on Saturdays on TikTok. It's just TikTok is a very addictive platform. We've been looking at Addison Rae. Obviously, she's, I don't know if she's the largest TikToker. One of the girls from my team, you know, is managing the TikTok. She found her. Addison, she's got like, what, 25 million or so. She's friends with like the Jenners and the Kardashians. And what's interesting about her is, like, if you watch enough of her videos, I mean, or if you watch enough TikTok, you kind of understand what's working on the platform, you know, like, it's the personality that's coming through. She feels very like the girl next door, very authentic. The addictive music, obviously, like the way TikTok's been designed, I mean, they're using pop songs, but the addictive songs and the little snippets are what really hook you. And I think, and that short form format. So I think, like, it's very interesting because she has really been able to capitalize on it. And I mentioned Jeremy to you before. She just did an ad with American Eagle, her and maybe 5 other influencers, and each of them shot their version. So it's like an ad. It's almost like a 30-second ad. Like they just cut it, like, and it's cutting in and out. But what's brilliant about it is that they are using the typical TikTok transitions that are really trendy, that work really well. So, you know, like the stuff, like, you know, for example, like, you know how, like, you know, they have these where they're just like, and then the person like looks different, or like they're throwing something and the next person catches it. There's a lot of different formats of transitions, and they basically have these influencers shooting stuff in their own home, but these guys know how to shoot video content. I mean, because they're huge influencers. So how do you make it fun when everyone's at home in their bedroom? You've got one influencer who's got a selfie stick and they're just rolling around on the bed with the selfie stick above them. And it just makes it so dynamic. I would really recommend, I'll send you the link, but I really recommend you guys check out the American Eagle ad on TikTok. It's Addison Rae is the TikToker. And you can just see, like, they really leverage, you know, I mean, personally, American Eagle is not a brand that, you know, I find very cool, if I could say that. But I think what they've done with the people that they're using and the format, just the creative format, the execution of it is brilliant. And they're leveraging these kids who know. These kids know intuitively, you know?
Yes.
So I would definitely recommend checking her out.
Fine. Fabulous. Thank you very much for that. I know we are all right at the end here. We've gone over a little bit, but one last question is, if people can take away one sentence or 2 sentences around why performance marketing is imperative to businesses, what would that be? What would be that key takeout?
It's the data and the analytics. I mean, like, we didn't have access to it before, and now we do. So bringing that back in to guide what you're doing from the brand marketing, the marketing communication side is key. You know, I mean, we were doing so much marketing and creative without guidance, and performance marketing gives you that feedback loop.
Fabulous. Well, thank you very much, Christina. You've been fantastic. Can't believe 4 questions, which is brilliant from. And for those of you that have got colleagues that might not have been able to make it, we have recorded this session, so we will have it up live on our YouTube channel over the next few days. Thank you very much. This has been Festival Fridays. We are going to take a couple of weeks break now for holidays, because we know most people are trying to get away, even if it's a staycation. But thank you very much for tuning in. This has been Festival Fridays. This has been Christina. Thank you very much. We'll give you a round of applause in the virtual world. Thank you.
So much.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.